For many generations, Black people have suffered injustice and inequality for no other reason than the color of their skin. It's time to change that once and for all. Our beautiful beaches community is very progressive in many ways. That is why we are all here today. Let us unite and stand together and lead with love. We are stronger together.
I was born in South Africa. I come from a mixed background. My parents came to Canada because of apartheid. We have an opportunity because COVID has shone a light on how cruel systemic racism is. And the areas of the city where most Black and racialized people live are the areas that have been hardest hit by COVID. We know that it's all the systems. It's education, it's health, and it's particularly policing. Thank you to each and every one of you for coming out here today, and thank you so much for pulling this together.
No justice, no peace. Black lives matter.
1, 2, 3, 4. Racism no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. Use your love, not your hate.
No justice, no peace. Black lives matter.
It has been very inspiring for me to march with members of my community here in the beaches. Systemic racism and discrimination in Canada has been historically ingrained into our public life, into our public institutions, and it's about time that we call attention to that and we don't take it anymore. Just outside of Main Station, I personally have been stopped by police 6 times. Our healthcare system. Racism and discrimination is manifested there, but we barely know how because our government refuses to collect racial data. Black Canadians are on average are 6 times higher unemployment rate than other marginalized or people of color. Black Canadians also make, on average, $12,000 less a year than other people of color. As Rosa Parks said, we will only fail when we fail to try. Thank you.
My personal mission is to create a world that has love, peace, and prosperity. And I do that by sharing my truth, my vulnerability, and my gifts. That's my personal mission. But I haven't been living up to that mission. My son has been called the N-word just a few blocks away from here. The saddest part about that to me as a father is knowing that he already knows that someone's going to judge him who's never met him before just because of the color of his skin. In 1883, Emma Lazarus said that until we are all free, we are none of us free. In 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King said, no one is free until we're all free. And here we are, 2020. None of us are free until we're all free. So I really appreciate the fact that this hasn't been turned into an all lives matters conversation. All lives do matter, but this is a Black conversation. And when you're having your conversation, I'll be there to stand with you. Thank you very much.
The way that you can start the conversation with your children is to begin to just diversify their environment by having books that show and showcase all different kinds of people. They talk about how Blackness was a creation that was made to encourage and not to feel morally responsible for enslaving lives. And I have experienced covert racism in the form of not seeing people who look like me on television shows, on the magazine covers, people at the highest rates in organizations, and that is not normal. I was normalizing that, and it's not normal. There are educated, brilliant, capable people of this community who've just been oppressed, and it's time for the oppression to stop. So build that trust within yourself first, and get there so that we can make a difference for our children. They deserve better than this. Thank you so much.
I grew up here in the beach. I went to St. John's, and I was the only person of color in my class. There were days when I would come home And I would tell my mom, I wish I could be the color of the palms of my hand. I still didn't feel that I was less than anybody else until I came to school. And I was treated or shunned sometimes or called the N-word. Growing up, I had the privilege of my parents and my grandparents talking about the great leaders like Nelson Mandela and Bishop Tutu, who fought for freedom and justice in South Africa. In our schools, we were reading books like To Kill a Mockingbird, or always something to do with slavery or domestic workers, never showing the example of people of color in a beautiful way. Ubuntu means oneness, and if we can all be one, then maybe we can get through this.
Growing up in Buffalo, New York, not a great place to grow up. Been racially profiled, experienced police brutality. I was George Floyd, but I'm here to speak to you today. Imaginary color lines in the city of Buffalo. And at the end of the day, there shouldn't be any race lines here. We're all human beings here. Now let's take this, let's not leave it here. Let's take it back to our homes. Let's go to our circles of influence. And let's make change, starting today.
I'm here today and I'm inspired to do this because my father taught me growing up to always speak your voice. Clayton Alcindor Charles, and he emigrated from the Caribbean to Toronto in 1968. My father tried numerous times to get an entry-level job with the Ontario government in the early 1980s. He talked to supervisors and managers to help others like himself who wanted better job opportunities. After years of fighting and never giving up on his dream for himself and other Blacks and opportunity-oppressed people who worked in the same entry-level jobs for years on end, he took action by spearheading the Affirmative Action Group in Canada. Eventually, more Black people began to win job competitions for better jobs with more pay. The fight is not over even 40 years later. Let's not give up until change happens.